I'm going to start by saying talking into a camera is so fucking hard. It's so hard. But some of you have been asking about why I do this and how I got into it. And today I'm actually going to take you back and give you the understanding as to why I do what it is I do. For those who have been following my journey, I've actually been podcasting for over 3 years. 3 years. But in the first 2 years, I was lost. I wasn't consistent and it was just a bit of fun. Why did I start the podcast? I always knew I wanted to do a podcast, and the podcast I wanted to do, I wanted to give some value. So, to the early listeners and those who've been there since the very start, you'll know that I had a podcast called Vibes and Tribes. It was so bootleg, I mimed my own theme tune. Some people are going to love this. Vibe, 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 vibe tribes, vibe, 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 vibe tribes, vibe, 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 vibe tribes. Do any of you remember that? If you don't, go back to episodes 1 through 5. Look back. Look at what I did. I actually did it for like 20 episodes. It was mad. But you know what? I was having fun. The early episodes were all about travel. This actually started as a travel podcast because I love to travel and I wanted to give insights, tips, because I'd had a lot of in-betweener like holidays. You know those holidays where, I went to Vegas, I was on a bar crawl and the bar crawl was just dead. It was dead. Or I'd gone abroad, and when you look to withdraw money from a cash machine, it asks, do you want to accept the conversion, yes or no? You're never supposed to accept the conversion, and I always used to accept the conversion. Back when I started, I was like, if I'm having these problems when I go on holiday, I'm sure there are going to be lots of other people that have this problem. So you know what I did? I started a podcast, I documented places that I'd been, and yeah, it was great. I loved it. But then, as I got more and more into podcasting, I thought about what can I do to keep the podcast consistent? Because when I was doing these travel episodes, I was inviting guests on. We were doing it every other week, every 3 weeks, once a month. It just wasn't consistent. And after a while, there's only so many places I've been. Your boy ain't got that much money. Like, I haven't traveled the whole world. So when I thought about longevity for the podcast, I didn't feel like it had legs because there's only so many places I've been. And when I interviewed people who had been to places where I hadn't been, it was just a bit of a difficult conversation because I didn't know how to steer it. So what did I do? I wanted to keep podcasting, and like I said, I wanted to add value. So I thought to myself, what would people be interested in? I was like, I've spoken about these holidays where, I've gone on tables, I've spent this much money, we've balled out, we've had a great time. What are some jobs that allow people to afford really extravagant holidays? So what I started to do, I started to interview people about their careers and what it is they did for work that allowed them to fund holidays and just fund their overall lifestyle. So that was where What My Best Friend Does kind of was born from, but it was still Vibes and Tribes at this point, and it was still very sporadic. And I think it was after episode 26, I took a bit of a break and I was like, okay, I'm going to go all in on careers because I find careers super interesting. I think everybody has a career, right? So the target market is everyone. I'm super interested in what people do for work. And then after episode 26, shout out to my boy Steve, because he was like to me, bruv, you can't be doing Vibes and Tribes no more. You have to freshen this up. So shout out to Steve. He knows what he did. Like, I went for some drinks with my boy, and he was just like, what is it you're doing here, bro? He started asking me questions like, who are your target market? Like, why is it you're having these conversations about jobs? And at the time I was thinking, why am I having these conversations? Why am I so interested? And as I started to think about it, I was like, I'm super interested because I work in tech. And, I've managed to forge a great career for myself, if I do say so myself. And I was super lucky about how I got into tech. If I take you back down memory lane, I actually first started working in banking. So I worked at Metro Bank, for those of you that know it. And I was at Metro Bank for 1.5 years. And then something happened. I landed another job at Lloyd's Banking Group, actually. But long story short, I never ended up starting at Lloyd's. They rescinded my offer after I'd already handed in my notice to Metro Bank. So I was pissed, bro. I was pissed. I didn't know what I wanted to do for work after that point. But I had all these friends from university who had great degrees. They'd gone on to do some great work. And one of my other friends, Josh Bruin, shout out to him, he was like, I'm working at this tech company, bro. You're going to have to start from the bottom as an SDR, which is like a sales development role. You're going to be calling companies, but we're super early. And yeah, I think it could be a great role for you. So he told me about that company, and I always knew in my head I wanted to work for a company or be in client relations. I always wanted to be that guy on the golf course, wining and dining clients, traveling the world. When I spoke to Josh, I realized that this was an opportunity to get into a career that I'd always kind of wanted to do. So, long story short, Josh hooked me up with an interview. I landed my job in tech, and fast forward 8 years later, I'm now an enterprise customer success manager for a unicorn company. That's a company that's worth over $1 billion. And basically, my job, my day to day, is managing a portfolio of clients of about £1.5 million, making sure they get the most from our software, delivering training, project management, implementation, yada, yada, yada. And I love what I do. I've got some amazing brands. I work with the likes of Arsenal Football Club. I work with Mercedes Formula One. I work with Joseph Joseph. I work with, beauty brands, Beauty Bay, like so many super interesting clients. And when I thought, going back to the story with Steve, when I thought about how I got into it, I was like, this was pure luck. Like, I had no idea what it is I wanted to do. And thankfully, because I had some friends, I was able to land a job. So, as I thought about that story, I was like, I'm so sure, like, there are so many other people that have no idea what they want to do. And then also, like, I'm just a naturally curious person. I'm always asking my best friends, like, what is it you actually do for work? And when you like ask your friends what it is they do for work, they're like, "Oh, I'm an accountant. I'm a lawyer." Okay, that is what you are, but it's not what you do. Like, have you ever had that moment where you ask a friend or somebody asks you, "What is it your friend does for work?" You can say what it is they are, but you don't really know what it is they do. So I was speaking to Steve and I was like, yeah, this is, this podcast is all about speaking to my friends about what it is they do for work. And he was like, so it's all about what your best friends do, what my best friend does, the What My Best Friend Does podcast. And from that moment, What My Best Friend Does was born. So that was in, I think, April of 2023. And then in May of 2023, I think I recorded the first set of episodes. And then in August of 2023, I released episode 1 with my best friend, the senior creative, with Rosanna Jackson. What an amazing episode. And What My Best Friend Does was born. And guys, like, I knew that I had found the thing. Like, I know I have my day job in tech, which I love, but I knew that there were going to be so many people that could be inspired from so many stories, because after episode 1 I was super inspired by Rose's story, and I knew that there were just so many stories to tell. And also, just like a little sidebar, I love podcasts. So I have always loved podcasts. Like, some of my favorite podcasts include one called My First Million, which is all about how, people have made their first million. I've listened to Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. I also really like a history podcast called what's it called? It's by Brad Wilson. It's called How to Take Over the World. Like, it's one of my favorite podcasts. If you haven't, make sure to check it out. It's all about these biographies of great people throughout history and the commonalities they share. So, there's been episodes about Napoleon, about Steve Jobs, about the founding fathers of America, Elon Musk, you name it. All of the key people throughout history, he does an episode on them. Like, there was even one recently about Jesus Christ and, the Christian faith and how it's become the most widely adopted religion in the world. Like, super interesting stuff. So I've always loved podcasts, but what I found with a lot of the business podcasts that I listen to, they interviewed founders, business owners, and it was all about, break away from 9 to 5, set up your own business, be a millionaire, I'm an expert, rah, rah, rah. And like, I love those podcasts, like I said, but like, what about the everyday person? Like, the majority of us, 90% of us, don't quote me on that statistic, but I feel like 90% of us actually work for the man, myself included. So what about the podcast for the everyday person that wants to just go and work for someone? Because not everybody is built to be a founder. Not everybody is built to be an entrepreneur. So whilst I love what those podcasts are doing, I wanted to create this platform to show that you could achieve a dream, get a super cool job, but you could still also work for somebody. Like, the be all and end all isn't just about being a founder, because being a founder is fucking hard. And I know, because in the past year I have interviewed several founders and the insights they've given me, they're shocking. So I knew I was onto something, and I knew that there was like a TAM there of stories that needed to be told to inspire people to go after jobs and careers that might be working for someone. Okay, so I know I'm just rambling, guys, but that is kind of like the origins of the podcast. And like I said, I released the first episode in August, and between August and I think it was November, I released 12 episodes. So I'd built up a batch. I was releasing consistently, and I was loving what I was doing. But then it was really hard finding guests. Like, one thing for fellow podcasters, finding guests is so hard. And it's not just finding guests that align with what it is you're trying to do is so hard. So in November of 2023, I had to take a break for a month because I didn't have episodes, and I knew I couldn't be consistent like I wanted to be. So I took a break. I released a couple of episodes in December. And then, similar to what I'm doing this year, at the end of 2023, I made a commitment to myself to, by hook or by crook, release one episode every week in 2024 and see what happens. Guys, there are 52 weeks in a year. I am recording this in week 50 of 52. So there are 2 weeks left of this year, and the results are in. I recorded, well, this is going to be episode 48. I released 47 episodes out of a possible 50. So I missed 3 weeks, but I released 47 episodes. Guys, that is like mental to anybody who has like tried to do a podcast. When I tell people I do a podcast, people regularly give me the statistic that I know. It's like 90% or 99% of podcasts don't make it past the 20th episode. So when I set that goal of releasing an episode a week for the whole year, I knew that if I did that, I would breeze past that 90% fail rate, the 99% fail rate, and I would more than double the episodes released. So that's what I did. I aimed to do it. Like I said, I released 47 episodes, not knowing what was going to happen. And guys, over the past year, like, it's just been a crazy journey, man. My main goal was to release yeah, like I said, an episode a week. And off the back of that, I thought, maybe some clips will go viral. Maybe people are going to get in contact with me for sponsorship. I'm going to become the next Stephen Bartlett. But reality set in, guys. That did not happen. Like, I'm super proud of what I've achieved. My audience has grown so exponentially, but podcasting is hard, guys. Finding the right guests are hard, guys. Like, for all the successes I've had, it has been a super tough year. But to anybody who is thinking about starting the thing, something that I've consistently said this year, and it's going to be my message for 2025, start the thing. Don't try and have the perfect plan before starting. Just start the thing. If you have an idea, start and figure it out. That is what I did with this podcast. And when I committed to doing to release an episode a week, I was just like, release an episode a week, you'll figure out the rest. And then what starts to happen is, as I release the episodes, now I'm going to start doing some clips every week. Now I'm going to start doing some clips every day. Now I'm going to start playing with the clips. It was only after episode 30 or so, of this new What My Best Friend Does, I started playing with the thumbnails. I wasn't even doing thumbnails. Now I'm going to test this. Now I'm going to test that. Guys, if I didn't start, I would not be where I am now. And also, guys, for all of the hardships I've said, I was featured in The Independent. I also started doing some live podcasting in schools. And off the back of that, I was invited into the House of Commons. I've had several clips go viral with 10k views, 20k views, 30k views, 40k views. And like I said, my audience has just continued to increase and increase and increase. So one thing I will say, and I'll be brutally honest to anybody who's thinking about starting something, no matter what it is you want to do, it will take time. Success does not happen overnight. I know one day I have aspirations for where I want this podcast to be. And when it eventually gets there, people are going to be like, that just happened overnight. No. Like I said, I've been at it for 3 years, but I've been properly at it for a year or a year and a half. And I've seen success, but it takes time. Literally, it was last month in November where after a full 11 months of posting every day, I had my first episode get over 1,000 views in long form content. And then guess what? After that episode got 4,000 views, I had my second episode get over 1,000 views. And then guess what happened after that episode? I didn't have an episode to release. So after I had the high of back-to-back episodes of over 1,000 views, I wasn't able to follow that up and release an episode for various reasons. So like I said, when you start something, it's not just about going up and up and up. It is a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster of emotions. It is a roller coaster of finances. It is a roller coaster that you have to prepare yourself for. And to those people who are thinking about, pursuing a goal, starting a challenge, you just have to think about your North Star and why it is you're doing it. Because it's understanding the North Star and why it is you're doing it that helps to get you through it. Not only that, you have to surround yourself with the right people. So in July of 2024, I married my wife, my best friend, and without her, I could get emotional now, but literally without her, I would not have been able to do this year, whether it be making sure my dinner's at home after a recording to, letting me know that everything is all right after, an episode hasn't done as well as I wanted to. She's literally been my rock. Alongside her, everybody at work. So like I said, I've got a day job in tech. They've all been super supportive. I've interviewed about 5 people from my company. They're always offering me guests. My friends from home, they've offered me guests. Even in the previous studio I was at, my editor, shout out Tatiana, she now works with, what are their names? Fuhad and James. Oh my God, what is it they do? Harry, I'm looking at you. Fuhad and James. It's Oh my God, how am I going to forget what Shits and Gigs? Oh my God, it took me so long to realise that. So yeah, shout out to Tatiana who now works with Shits and Gigs. There were times where I went into the studio without a guest, and Tatiana provided me with a guest. And not only did she provide me with a guest, she provided me with a sick guest. So she introduced me to Nana Parry, who was super open about like the realities of being a founder, and he gave some crazy insights into like why he would never look to raise money again. And she also introduced me to Jean-Vier, who we didn't record it in the studio because I'd left that studio at that point, but we ended up recording in this studio, and like to this day it's one of my favorite episodes of all time. Because I love film, I love cinema. He owns a company called Minute Shorts, and we speak all about the film industry and why he thinks it's dying. And like Jean-Vier, shout out, like he's a visionary, and he spoke about like his ideas for the film industry and what he is personally doing to try and fix it. So shout out Jean-Vier, shout out Tatiana. Like, just, I've spoken about, when I speak to people who are thinking about getting into podcasting, a question I get a lot is, how is it you get your guests? And I'll say it again, you just have to start and things will figure itself out. So when I started, like I said, it's what my best friend does. I reached out to my best friends. I was interviewing my best friends. I've said my wife is my rock. Episode 1, Rosanna, it's actually my wife's best friend. So it could have been called What My Wife's Best Friend Does. I've interviewed her. I've interviewed her other best friend, Dr. Jess. Like, I was interviewing my best friends. I was interviewing my wife's best friends. Like I said, I was interviewing my work colleagues. And then once I got a bank of episodes, I then expanded out. So I would speak to the people who I had on the podcast. Is there anybody else you know who you think would be good for the episode? They would connect me. And then what started to happen, as you start to show that consistency and, you start to show up in people's feeds every week, people started to inbound me. So, I've had various guests who have DM'd me, and they were super interested, and I've had amazing conversations with them. Like, Ola Christian is one, founder of LaVille. What an amazing platform. It's all about helping, actors predominantly from underrepresented backgrounds, get their foot up in the TV and film industry. So he reached out to me. We had a super interesting conversation, like put it out. And he reached out after seeing me interview someone else. That has happened a few times. But then what happens is I released the episode with Ola, and then Ola introduced me to like 10 people. So Ola gave me a list of incredible people, and off the back of that, I interviewed Ed, who I had an amazing conversation about empathy and how he feels like empathy can change the world. He introduced me to Dijon. That was another episode about the film and TV industry. And like even to this day, like I've gone back to Ola, like, you've introduced me to some amazing people, bro. Like, anyone else? So like one thing you have to do as a creator, as somebody who's just trying to achieve a goal or objective, you have to leave your pride at the door and your ego at the door. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, for me, I know how hard it is. I've been doing this for the last year and a half consistently, and I know how hard it is to get guests. I know how hard it is to edit. I know all of the time. You can't do it alone. Like, don't be afraid to ask people. So I'm always slipping into people's DMs. Well, not always, actually. I still struggle. Like I say, I'm always slipping into people's DMs. I still struggle. I say it's a roller coaster. There are some points where I feel more emboldened. So when we got the feature in The Independent, that week I was gassed. I was messaging people. I'm like, hey, we've been featured in The Independent. Do you want to come on? Rah, rah, rah. Loads of people reached out on my behalf. But then guess what? People don't respond. And then what happens? Even me, like, I retreat back into my shell. And like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But, coming back to understanding the mission of this podcast, which has developed over the past 18 months into what it is today, which is inspiring people to take action, and not just inspiring people to take action, hopefully, inspiring people to find the career of their dreams or pursue a dream. But yeah, it's all about inspiring people to take action. Like, we've spoken to people about finances, that's inspiring people to take action with their finances. We've spoken to people about empathy, that's inspiring people to be more empathetic. And then, yeah, we've had all of these different conversations about careers and industries. That's about inspiring people to find their dream role in a potential industry that they weren't too familiar with. Um, so yeah, guys, like, even just that understanding of what my best friend does to understanding the mission of the company, that has developed over time, and that has come through just being open to feedback and like listening to the audience, reading the comments, and speaking to some trusted people. Like, I got to shout out another guest who was previously on this episode, on this podcast. Sorry, James Caldecott. He really helped me to just like zoom out, look at the podcast, understand who I was serving, and when I wrote down my target market, what it is I was doing, we understood that this was a podcast all about inspiration. Like, guys, if I can record this podcast for the past year and a half, and grow the way I've grown, you can do it. Like, what I always say to people in my personal life, I'm recording this podcast just to genuinely show people that anything is possible. Like me, yes, I went to university. I did an economics and management degree, but guys, like, I basically flunked out of university. I got a Desmond. To people who don't know what a Desmond is, 2-2, Desmond 2-2. So if you ever hear me say I got a Desmond at uni, it's probably because, like, I'm embarrassed to say I got a 2-2. I shouldn't be embarrassed, but like I said, I went to a good uni. A lot of my friends got 2-1s and firsts. My wife got a first. So, back in the day, I really used to be in my own head about, people talk about imposter syndrome. I've definitely had imposter syndrome throughout my career. I still have it now. I don't even know like where I'm going.
I got a question.
Yeah, please hit me with a question.
What is your advice for if you've got imposter? How do you deal with imposter syndrome? Let's say you've had it. How do you deal with it?
Just like Harry, shout out Harry, by the way. Like, Harry is my G, and Harry's on the journey with me. Like, even if anybody from ID Studios like listens to your podcast, when it blows, we taking Harry with us. Harry's part of the furniture. He's one of us. But yeah. Like, there's a question like, how is it I deal with imposter syndrome? You deal with it by doing. Like, you can't procrastinate. Like, you're an imposter until you're not. I was speaking to someone the other day, or like a quote I've seen. On the other side of fear is growth. So that really rung true with me. Like, I might be an imposter and think, how is it I can do this? How is it I can achieve? But you don't know what you're capable of until you just go out and do it. So that's how I deal with it. I'm like, if Stephen Bartlett can do it, if I'm following this guy called Callum Johnson, he's gone from 0 to 100k followers in less than 12 months. If these people can do it, like, why not me? We're all just humans at the end of the day. It's a bit like football. Like, actually, I was going to say it's a bit like basketball, but I ain't 6'7", so I can't actually be a basketball. Like, man's not that nimble. Man's not that nimble. But like, for the day to day, like, I have the equipment, I have the chat, I have the dedication, and it comes back to having like the understanding of that North Star. I'm just committed to the craft. My wife will hate me saying this, but I'm obsessed, and like, because I'm obsessed about the podcast, like, I'm always worrying about thumbnails, titles. Like, sometimes I lose sleep before, like, the night before an episode comes out, because I'm like, oh, did I do that? Did I do this timestamp? And it's like, when you understand, like, when you've left everything out on the field and you've done everything you can do, like, that's how you overcome. That's how you overcome imposter syndrome. You outwork your self doubt. Like, that's another thing I've heard, like, in the conversations I've had over this year. Like, outwork your self-doubt. I think it's Alex Hormozy, actually, who says that. Outwork your self-doubt, and amazing things happen. So, like, this has been a bit of, like, a rambling, but it's something I feel committed to doing. In 2024, like, we've grown so much. Like, I think I had, I don't know, 100 subscribers on YouTube. I've now got over 400. I had a couple of hundred on Instagram, got over 600. And like, to the listener, that might not seem like a lot, but to me, like that growth, like if you think about it, imagine having like, that's like over 1,000 people across those two platforms, not to mention TikTok. Imagine speaking in front of 1,000 people. And, you know, that's another piece of advice. I always like post about this. You have to celebrate the small wins, like, because it's the small wins that lead to the big wins. So like, I'm celebrating 600, 700, 800, 1,000, because you don't get to 10,000 without reaching 1,000. And, you know, every marathon starts with a single step. So, like, to those people who have lofty goals and have big dreams, you really have to celebrate the small wins, because it's the small wins that, once again, make it palatable, and they give you the positive reinforcement to keep going. If you just focus on the big picture, guys, it's so hard. It's so hard. You get deflated. And like, I'm gonna be real with you, even when you focus on the small wins, it's still fucking hard. It is still fucking hard. Life is hard. But one of the things that gives me comfort, and it's something my brother always used to say to me, it's like, if things were easy, everyone would do them, right? Let me repeat that. If things were easy, everyone would do them. You have to take pride in the struggle, because it's the struggle that sets you apart. It's the struggle that gives you the exponential returns. So like, when you understand that, that is what helps to get you through the difficult moments. Like, guys, I'm recording this. This might get 10 views. I don't care. Like, I am doing this as a document to myself, because I have unwavering belief that this podcast is going to succeed. I know that the podcast is going to succeed because I'm so clear on my mission. I want people to find their dream. I want people to pursue things that they didn't think were possible. I also just want to highlight the opportunities that are out there, because guys, like, I've said it on the podcast before I went to university, I didn't even know the types of careers, or even like the types of countries that there were in the world. Like, I lived a very sheltered childhood. Like, I didn't know about Bali. I'd never heard of Thailand. Like, I'd seen the beach with Leonardo DiCaprio, but I didn't know where the fuck that was. Like, honestly, like, going to university, it expanded my horizons more than I could ever imagine. And one of the things I like to do on this podcast is ask people, do you think the university is worth the price of admission? For me, it was back in the day. Now, at like the fees what they are, which is like 10 grand, would I pay for it? Probably not. Because once again, when I was at university, YouTube wasn't what it was. LinkedIn, it wasn't what it was. We're actually like living in a society that's developing. I'm showing my age. Like, TikTok wasn't around, but there are so many resources that are available to help people like be successful. Like, I've said it before in this conversation, and I'll say it again. If you want to be successful, you have to do things that other people aren't doing. Because if it was easy, everyone would do it. You have to read more books. You have to go to more networking events. You have to connect with more people on LinkedIn. You've got to do the extra post on social media. You have to outwork the competition, outwork the self-doubt. Like, not only that, you've got to be strategic, and like, it takes a village. Ask for help. Speak to people who have trodden the path. If there's one thing that has helped me in the last few months, it is speaking to people who know way more about podcasting than I do. Shout out Jonathan Reed, who's also been a guest on this podcast. He has given me so much information. He's also sent me a Notion doc, which has helped with like my guest management system. Like, he knows more than me. Another guest, Rufa Meku, she has worked with Stephen Bartlett, right? the Stephen Bartlett, and she has given me some priceless information. There are so many other people, like, I could not do this on my own. Even Harry, who's sitting there on the chair, like, during every episode, I'm just like, I'm a sponge. And like I said, I just want to be better. And any advice I can get from people to make this podcast the best thing it can be, I take that. So guys, like, what am I saying? I like one of the things that Ruth actually said to me is that, yeah, you have this podcast and you have these social media platforms, but people, like, do they really know who you are? If they go onto your Instagram, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, like, do they really know who you are? So, like, this was an episode, hopefully, to give you a little bit of insight into who I am. And who knows, like, if you like it, there's so much I've not shared. I'm a United fan, but United are so shit at the moment. I don't like talking about football. I love travelling, like I said. I had the Vibes and Trials podcast. Like, this is just the first layer of the onion. But yeah, to everybody who has been part of the journey this year, like, thank you so much. Like, you give me life, you give me energy. Guys, like, and just to give you a little sneak peek into 2025, we have got some amazing guests lined up, guys. We've got authors lined up, we've got more personalities, we've got some people from TV. Guys, we've got some special episodes. I've just like had confirmation on like a presenter, so that's something I'm super interested in. So I'm gonna be getting like a presenter from one of the major broadcasters on. 2025 is shaping up to be an incredible year. I've also been invited to do some public speaking, so you're gonna see a lot more of me. Like, this podcast is going to the top. I want you to come on the journey with me. And guys, like, to all the people that have sent me messages, thank you so much. Please, like, tell me, what is it I can do to help inspire you? Who is it you want to hear from? What industries do you want to learn about, guys? Let me know, and I will make the dreams a reality. And then once I've done that, guys, if you've taken just one thing from any of these episodes, guys, let me know. Like, when I record these episodes, I always say, I just want one person to get one nugget. If one person gets one nugget, then I've done my job for the episode. If you are that person who gets that nugget, guys, like, please let me know. It means the world, honestly. I've poured my heart out. I'm drained. But yeah, guys, I just want to finish by sharing my goals for 2025. Like, you know, this podcast is all about inspiring others to take action. I too need to take action. I started this episode by saying, you know, I had one overarching goal at the beginning of 2024. Now I'm going to share my goals for 2025 with you, and hopefully in a year's time we're going to look back on them and we're going to see how I've done. So without further ado, here are my goals for 2025. So I think the first goal I want for 2025 is to secure my first sponsor for the podcast. So like, I spend a lot of money on this podcast, and like I said, I'm committed to the mission, and I'm hoping in 2025, like, there are going to be brands and companies out there who understand the mission I'm on and want to go on the journey with me. So yeah, if there's anybody from any brands who are looking to inspire people to take action, yeah, make sure to shout out your boy. So yeah, first goal of 2025 is to secure the first sponsor to this podcast. I'm going to set a super crazy, like, ambitious goal for subscribers. So like I said, we release all of this content across platforms, but I typically tend to look at YouTube. So this is a goal specifically for YouTube. We're at time of recording, like, over 400 subscribers. I want to 10x that. So by the end of next year, I want to have 5,000 subscribers. I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do that, but I want to have 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I think, like, if we do like a mini goal, I want to just have over 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. Because yeah, at that point, your content starts to get monetized. The watch hours almost there, But yeah, we're only at 4,000. We're only at 400 subscribers. That's goal number 2. Goal number 3. I want to be a guest on, you know, I want to be a guest on like 3 podcasts, I'd say. Once again, I have no idea how this is going to happen. And I'm actually like super nervous about speaking, like if I'm not having a conversation with someone. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can get invited. I've been invited to do some public talks, and I'm hoping that I get invited onto at least 3 podcasts. So yeah, that's my 3rd one. My 4th one is just to land a whale of a guest. When people ask me who is like the dream guest for this podcast, I always say like Marcus Rashford, because I'm a big United fan and I love what he did during COVID with the free school meals. I think there's an amazing story to tell there. I'd love to talk to Bukayo Saka, even though he's from the opposing team, like star boy. Love to talk about like his experiences at the Euros and just really dive into his story. I'd love to talk to like Damson Idris. Like he's like an actor at the top of his game. Snowfall is one of my favourite TV shows. So yeah, talk to people from a range of like people at the top of their game, from a range of industries, and yeah, like some more business leaders as well. Maybe even talk to the CEO of my company. So I work for a company called Yotpo. Tomer, if you see this, yeah, would love to have a conversation with you on the podcast. That one's like more realistic, but yeah, you know, you got to set the sky as the limit. And then I think the final one, I want to host an in-person event. So some people told me to do one this Christmas for all the people on the podcast. Like next year, I know I'm going to release my 100th episode. And yeah, I have a big goal around doing an in-person event to celebrate the 100th episode. So yeah, want to do a massive in-person event to celebrate episode number 100, maybe one before, who knows. But yeah, they're my goals, and we'll come back at the end of 25. We'll see if I achieve them. But yeah, keep me accountable. So there you have it. Like, there are my goals for 2025. Now over to you. What are your goals for 2025? Let me know in the comments. And guys, let's continue this journey together. Now let's go into 25, take some action, and let's make 2025 our bitch. Yeah, I'm going to keep that in as well. Let's make 2025 our motherfucking bitch. You get me in this bitch. Yeah. My editor Harry thinks we can't stop the episode without me doing my own quickfire round. So yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out in the edit, but we're going to give it a go. Harry, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here comes my own quickfire round.
Okay, money or happiness?
Manappiness. Shout out to Hayden for that one. Manappiness is money and happiness. Yeah, manappiness.
Okay, work from home or work from the office?
Work from the office. Do you know what? I love a work from office day, but work from home, man, you can just get a lot of other stuff done alongside your job.
Okay.
Work, don't kill me.
Travel to the past or the future?
Travel to the past or future. I want to travel to the future because, as previous guests have said, they ain't nothing gonna pass for us, man. And if by us, you know what I mean.
Favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast? Oh, My First Million. Simple.
Okay. Top 3 things you've learned from podcasting?
Top 3 things I've learned from podcasting. Be consistent. Top 3 things I've learned from podcasting. Be consistent. Don't be afraid to ask anybody to be a guest on your show. Like, you have the power. Understand, or even better yet, like, understand the power of your platform. And then 3rd thing, stop saying
Okay. 1 million subscribers or 1 million views?
Ooh, 1 million subscribers or 1 million views? 1 million views, because the views will lead to subscribers.
1 viral video or 1 comment from someone saying it made a difference?
Oh, that's actually fucking tough. I'm gonna say, I need the viral video, man. Like, I really want to make a difference, but man needs the viral video right now.
Okay, and dream dinner guest?
Dream dinner guest. Ooh, dream didn't get. Can I have a few?
You can have one from the past and one present.
One from the past and one present.
Yeah.
Okay, one from the past. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I had that one. Like, shout out, would love to have him on, or have dinner with him. Shall I say about have him on? And then one from the present. Um, who do I really like? Dream dinner guest. Shit, this is hard when you're in the hot seat, isn't it? I'm gonna go with Phil Knight because I love the book Shoe Dog, and I love Nike as well. So yeah, he'd be amazing to pick his brains. And then special shout out to like Sir Alex Ferguson because I'm a big United fan, and yeah, I'd love to speak to him about like some great stories. But I'm gonna go Phil Knight because yeah, I love Shoe Dog. I love you guys. Like I said, my name is Bio. This is the What My Best Friend Does podcast. If you don't know, now you know. Now go outside and take some immediate action. Over and out.